Good evening, and while I have the opportunity, let me give all of you the greetings of the season. We're delighted that you're here tonight, and I think it's really a great night for all of us. We have my good friend now of almost 30 years, John Ullman, here tonight to talk about investments, the market, the influence of government on the economy and the markets and so forth. So let me tell you a little bit about John. As I indicated, I met him about not quite 30 years ago, 28 years ago. He was in business about 7 years, and that business was a dream he had as a very young man, because he's not an old man yet. You're catching up on me, John, but you'll get there soon. But he went to Johns Hopkins University, and when he graduated, he went on to the University of Chicago to get his master's degree in finance. And then he went to work for Corning Incorporated in their finance area, and so impressed not only his bosses but senior executives in the corporation, they encouraged him to pursue his dream of developing a financial services company with the highest ethical standards, zero conflicts of interest, and a corporation that would help a investor or a family in every aspect of their life, bar none. And as a client, because that's how I met John, I had a board member who was very familiar with John and John G. Ullman and Associates, and mentoring a fairly young college president at the time, or a young college president now, when I look back. Put us in touch, and for me and Beverly and our family, that was just a great introduction. It's meant enormous difference in our lives. And again, the construct of the business is whatever the family needs. John and his very dedicated and very talented staff try and generally do help, because there's very little that we do in life that doesn't impact our finances, or there's very little that we do financially that doesn't impact everything else. He's got a tremendous track record. I can remember, and I told him the other night, and I'm not sure that he recalled this, but I guess it was 2002 when the tech bubble blew up and people took a tremendous hit in their portfolios. I had a positive 2.8% return with John, when typically I think people lost 20% or more. In 2008, 2009, John will tell you, beginning of the summer of 2007, he moved all his clients into the most conservative position they had ever been in, and avoided the catastrophe that was to come within the year. He will talk a lot about preservation of capital, but I will shut up, get out of the way, and let him present, because that's who you came to hear from. So with that, I give you my friend John Ullman.
Well, we've had another tour of the campus here, and my wife and I, Bobby is back there. We came with highest expectations, knowing Art and what he and Bev and the whole team has done here, but from about 6 years ago, it is staggering, absolutely staggering. You folks who are involved with this wonderful university should be so proud. mean, just as people who care about Art in Beverly and seeing what Art has done in his past life and what he's done here, I mean, it is absolutely nothing short of amazing. I can't find words to properly describe it. But let me get started, if I may. The topics are really, Art and I have discussed this, discussion of the U.S. economy, issues and opportunities, and he had suggested it be informal, so please, if you have questions or anything else, don't hesitate. For some of these topics, you know, are ones that people have strong opinions on. I have to start with, I grew up in metropolitan New York on Long Island, and some of you would not remember the name Yogi Berra, but I can't start without a recollection of Yogi. Those who don't know him, I'm sorry, you just can't possibly get Yogiisms, because he would say things that only he'd get away with. And one of my favorites, especially in a climate that in the summer does have some warmth to it. Apparently, Yogi was getting the key to the city from Mayor John Lindsay. And Yogi was not viewed at that time as a public speaker. He was just an outstanding baseball player for his size, who hit, I remember catching a baseball in right field. I ended up being dumb and I used it, being very thrifty. I should have done something a little more formal. There was a home run in the upper deck, and this guy was fairly slight. But anyway, it was a particularly warm day in New York, and getting this award, and it was a fairly large crowd. And Mary Lindsay, wife of Mayor John Lindsay, wanted to put Yogi at ease, since he's a baseball player and not a public speaker or a politician. So she's trying to make conversation, and she didn't know exactly what to say because Yogi was not saying a word. He might have been nervous. So Mary Lindsay says to Yogi something along the lines, Yogi, you know, in being in this area of public speaking, you know, you seem extremely calm. You don't seem as if you're perspiring or anxious or anything else. And Yogi goes back, you know, well, Mrs. Lindsay, you don't look so hot yourself. If I had said that, or Marta said that, it would have been like this. Yogi gets away with that and everybody laughs. Most people, you know, as an environment, he could say things like that. I remember another one, and of course you can't say it the way he did, but it has these different meanings. There was one that I remember, he was getting a pizza, and the person who was selling it, or the waiter maybe if he had it in-house, said, Yogi, would you like your pizza cut in 6 or 8 pieces? And Yogi responded, you better make it 6, I'm not that hungry. I hope people remember him for decades ahead. I mean, he's a wonderful man. I'll be remiss in not starting off with all those kind comments that Art had passed along. I've known Art a long time, and he has done amazing things at other colleges. And when St. Leo had the wisdom to ask Bevan and Art to come down here, those of us who knew what Art had done at Cooper College and others knew that he would do sensational things. Now, what it would be exactly, of course, that would have to play out. And when we came down about 6 years ago, you know, absolutely amazed. Well, 6 years later, it's beyond. I mean, to see this new business building, to see the new parking lot. We went to the game Saturday night against Albany. I don't think they want to play a game again this year. I mean, that basketball team that's been assembled here, they were doing behind the back passes, and I mean, it was so one-sided. It was almost like the Sunday football game when our team did not show up. Art wins. I mean, even with the Bucks. I mean, you know, 4-9 teams. But any event, you know, you look back and you say, well, when Art came here, again, these are round numbers. I think the full-time enrollment in this campus was like 700. Now it's like 2,250. With the online program, again, these numbers are approximate, understood that there were about 7,000 people. Off campus. Off campus, everything. I'm sorry, off campus with the military. If you include everything now, it's something over 16,000. You have employees went from like 350 to about 1,000, and Art was telling me that if you include the adjunct faculty, it's like 2,400. You know, when you've acquired new properties nearby that have been underway for a long time, the endowment has gotten to be a meaningful number from what wasn't there 16 years ago. And I don't know much about this, but Art takes great pride in the values that are posted all over the building. We saw them out there, and whenever he talks, he always refers to them. We do the same thing with our business. We're very proud of them. They recently got a recognition for athletics, where I think it was 16 years ago, there were like 2 or 3 times the college then was recognized for winning conferences. It's been like 30. And then even more importantly, I guess it's the Mayor's Award or Mayor's Cup, which has to do with all athletics and being at a top drawer level, and got that recognition. And you know, to hear that the athletic program mirrors the values where the students have very high GPAs, and that's something I know that Dr. Kirk is so proud of. It just all fits together. So Bobby and I are just amazed at what we have seen, and more than we even expected, and we came in with a very high expectation. Now we have a little quiz for everybody. You know, many of you have been in an investment area. I'm not going to show you a slide. We'll go to the next one. We don't want to do that. But before I get to this, I wanted to talk about how the markets have done in the past. And so I have a quiz of sorts. And there aren't any prizes or will be prizes, but I would ask you to chime in to see what your thoughts are. There are some answers that would be closer, but it's interesting. If you look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, now there are other indices that are important. It hit 100, believe it or not, in 1906. Nothing goes back that far. If you look at how the Dow average has done subsequently during different periods, I think it'll be meaningful. Now, just to talk about what the math means, if you go to a bank, there's some bank presidents and bank employees, senior ones here. If you go to the bank and if the rate's 1%, you put $100 in, you're going to have roughly $101, and next year you have 1% return. If you do it for 5 years, it'll be a little more than 105 for the compounding effect. But in that time period, you say the annual rate of return was 1%, right? So if we do that, and we're not talking about taxes, inflation, dividends, purely change in the Dow. So if it went from 100 to 101 one year, that's a 1% change. What do you think if we take the Dow from 1906 on a per year basis, compounded, would go to 1929, the day after the crash? Any guess what the average annual change in the Dow Industrial Average might have been on a per year basis? Is everybody understand what I'm talking about? Who would venture a guess? Let's go around. Oh, come on.
5%.
5%. What do you think, sir?
I was going to say
2%. Okay. 9%.
Negative.
Negative. Who got negative? Okay. Any others? Okay, the number is about 4.3%. So you guys were pretty good. If somebody said 100%, 80% or something, I've been way off. What if we look at the next period, 1929 to 1956? Any guess what that would be approximately? You get after the crash and the Depression and World War II, and you're getting into the Eisenhower years. What would you think per year for the 27 years?
3.
You've heard this, huh?
3%.
20% a year? Okay.
No, 3.
3%. I'm sorry, I didn't start. Anyone else? 5%. Anyone else? Come on.
8.
8%. It's about 2.5. Okay, now let's go from I don't know what that is, but I think I know what it was. How about from 1956 to 1970?